Hi, my name is Jared Lubert. I'm a forensic sales engineer with Belkasoft. I will be your technical support point of contact. My information will be at the end of this presentation. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dive into some PowerPoint slides. It's only about 10 slides or so it'll be rather short. And then we'll actually get into the product. Any sort of questions you may have, as this is a pre-recorded demonstration, please feel free to reach out to either myself or the sales team, James Addison. All right, let's begin. So what is Belkasoft Evidence Center X? Well, it's an all-in-one digital forensic and incident response tool. But what does that mean? It means we cover the four major digital forensic branches. So that includes mobile, cloud, memory, computer. We have multiple editions. Our highest edition is the corporate edition of Belkasoft X, identifying methods of persistence, recently downloaded folders, apps that run at startup, prefetch files, and so on. And I will actually show you what's available in this incident investigations module, which, by the way, we made into an individual tool if you do not want the entire version of Belkasoft Evidence Center X corporate edition, but that will be a demo for another day. Also with the corporate edition is something known as cross-case analysis. This is going to maintain a centralized repository of all of the artifacts that you've ever loaded into Belkasoft Evidence Center X on your forensic workstation. So whenever I show you a little bit later on in the product where I go open case and it'll show you all the cases I've ever worked on, what that's doing is it's just maintaining that centralized repository of all the artifacts. So if, say, 5 months ago I analyzed a phone, I get a couple artifacts, I get file hashes, it saves those. So say 4 months later, I'm analyzing another phone and I get a hit for a match from a different device entirely. So all of a sudden we're making these cross-case connections. So that's what a cross-case analysis is, and I can show you what that looks like inside the product. So Belkasoft X has the ability to acquire hard drives in two different types of formats, a DD or raw image, or E01. Your hash calculations of SHA-1, 256, and MD5 with that optional verification for that forensic soundness. If you plan on transferring the image that you've created across multiple machines, we do have an option that allows you to split the image up into chunks of a given size. You get to pick whatever size you want to chunk it to. If you are out in the field doing the acquisitions often, Belkasoft Evidence Center X works on a Microsoft tablet, so you can use it in the field. As far as memory acquisition goes, we do have a free live RAM capture tool that's available at belkasoft.com/get, and that is for Windows machines. Okay, jumping straight into the acquisition methods with Belkasoft X, we will start with the Android mobile devices. So you can see here we have a pretty healthy list of Android acquisition methods. The first one is the advanced ADB acquisition. Now, what makes it advanced? If you look through this list, you'll see a couple acquisition methods that utilize the ADB. So that's going to be your standard ADB backup, your agent-based backup, and your APK downgrade. All three of these methods rely on ADB in order to acquire the device. What the advanced ADB acquisition does is it combines those three acquisition methods into one, so no longer you have to create three different acquisitions for the device. You can do it all in one shot. So that's what the advanced ADB acquisition is. Your standard ADB backup, obviously that's going to require USB debugging enabled with developer options turned on. The Android file system copy is for rooted Android devices. It's important to note that Belkasoft does not root devices, but we do have the capability of acquiring rooted devices. Again, we have a physical dump option for rooted devices. The agent-based backup utilizes ADB to sideload an application onto the device and obtain what's equivalent to an ADB backup with an agent. The reason that you might have to use agent-based as opposed to ADB backup could just be that there might be a damaged port, damaged cable. For some reason, it's not allowing you to do a standard ADB backup. The agent that goes onto the device is removed upon completion of the acquisition. The next is the PTP-MTP, your Picture Transfer Protocol, Media Transfer Protocol. This will get you your pictures, videos, audios, and maybe a few applications depending on the type of application. The next three are chipset exploits that we have. So MediaTek, Qualcomm, and Spreadtrum. This is going to rely on the chipset that's on the device. You'll notice that there's an agent-based MTK right next to MediaTek. That's utilizing the exploit from the chip that we have in order to put an agent on the device and acquire that as well. Full supported device list can be found at belkasoft.com / and you would type MTK _supported _devices. Same for Qualcomm and Spreadtrum. You're just replacing the MTK. As far as APK downgrade, a lot of times, and now more than ever, app developers do not want people to be able to read their end users' data, so they're no longer allowing their data to be included in a backup. So APK downgrade will identify the version of application that you have on the device you're trying to acquire, let you know what a downgradable version of that application is. It will downgrade the application, pull as much data as it can from that application, and then restore the version of that application on the Android device. The final acquisition method is the screen capture. Whenever this first came out within the last, I guess 2 releases ago, it was meant initially just for Signal, WhatsApp, and Telegram messages. Since then, in the latest release, it will now work on any application, social media, news feeds, notification feeds, you name it. If you can scroll it, you can capture it. So this is a forensically sound way to acquire these messages, really anything that's on the phone that you need to scroll with. And so I can show you what that looks like inside the product. Next, we move on to iOS acquisition methods. And this is going to be kind of like the bread and butter when it comes to Belkasoft X. So the standard iTunes backup, that only requires the latest iTunes version on your forensic workstation. A full logical copy for jailbroken iOS devices. Again, jailbreaking devices, we do not jailbreak devices, but we do support the acquisition of them. We support devices that are jailbroken with CheckRain, Uncover, and Odyssey, which is really the top 3 jailbreaks for the latest iOS models. One thing that sets us apart is our Checkmate acquisition option on a Windows platform. We do have the ability to acquire a full file system of an iOS device with A5 through A11 chipsets. So that's going to be your iPhone 5S through iPhone X and iPad Air through 7. So with that being said, the device does not have to be jailbroken in order to acquire the device with Checkmate. There are 2 different options for acquiring data. We have BFU mode, before first unlock. The password is not known or it was reset. And the following option is after first unlock. The password is known and it is unlocked. Here we're kind of put in this situation where we can now acquire information even if we don't have the password for that iOS device. Now, you will not get all of the information, but you will get a lot of the information, which is something that we typically would not have access to. And this with this method, we also have the ability to lift USB restricted mode as well. The agent-based acquisition is probably one of my favorite iOS acquisition types, as it doesn't require an exploit. So basically, it is a agent-based and requires an Apple Developer ID. Now, this Apple Developer ID can either be a paid Apple Developer ID or a free Apple Developer ID. The difference between the two is that the paid Apple Developer ID on your forensic workstation can utilize the internet through your forensic workstation and not through the device. So you will create that trust with your computer, handshake with Apple, put the agent on the device, and you can acquire a full file system copy with this agent, and that is then removed upon completion. Now, the paid Apple Developer ID is $99 and can be bought through the Apple Developer website. If you do not want to pay the $99, we do have a free option for this agent base as well. So this one, the caveat to this one is that the internet has to be turned on on the iOS device that you're trying to acquire, so it can make that handshake with Apple and trust the certs to put the agent on the device. For the agent-based acquisition, you can acquire any iOS device that's running iOS version 10 all the way to mid 14s at this point. The next one is the Apple File Conduit, which is the brother or sister of the picture transfer protocol, media transfer protocol of an Android device. So that's your pictures, videos, audio files. And the next is crash reports. So crash reports can be a treasure trove of information, as they can contain system information such as IP addresses. It's also another really good way to identify if an application was on a device at a specific time. Anytime that the system crashes or an application crashes, it dumps to these crash reports and lists the application names, date timestamps, and so on. So this is a really good acquisition to obtain if you're looking for something like that. As far as cloud acquisitions go, we do support Carbonite, a cloud storage option, iCloud. And one thing that's not mentioned here is actually iCloud backups. iCloud backups were recently added in the latest release of Belkasoft Evidence Center X and have the ability to acquire up to 4 snapshots that are found within that specific iCloud account. The Google Suite to include Google Keep, Google Timeline, Google My Activity, Google Drive, and so on. Now we support Instagram, WhatsApp downloads from either a phone number or a QR code. Webmail services, we support currently close to 30 different email, the big name email. Now, another really interesting feature about our email acquisition is that if the email that you want is not listed, such as say, an enterprise exchange server that's kind of proprietary to that company, we do have the option where you can enter in the email address, the password, the server that is hosting the webmail, and then the port number that they're using, so that you can actually acquire any mailbox with this information. And then, of course, Microsoft 365. The next one is another one of my favorites. It's virtual machine acquisitions. So say that you've acquired a computer, say E01, you load it into Belkasoft X, it starts processing the image after you told it what you wanted to process it for. You do not have to know that a virtual machine is on that system image in order to analyze it. Belkasoft X will automatically detect that there's a virtual machine, pull it out, and allow you to analyze that virtual machine separately from that system image. And it will be listed as a nested data source. And I'll show you what that looks like inside the product. And we do have the ability to load in VMDK files and other types of virtual machine files as well. Belkasoft X supports VMware, Virtual PC, VirtualBox, and XenServer. As far as supported file systems and operating systems, you can see that we have a pretty wide range. We have APFS, FAT, FAT32, NTFS, HFS, EXT. So there is a lot of support here. This is the We Play Well with Other slide. Right below that, you can see that we have support for logical encase files, regular encase files, FTK image files, X-Way, Zatola, DMG, so Mac image files, and many, many more. And I will show you that as well. Dealing with encryption. So with the Belkasoft Evidence Center X Forensic Edition and Corporate Edition, there is built-in encryption, detection, and decryption with the use of Belkasoft's partner Passware and their Forensic Kit. The Forensic Kit is built to work seamlessly with Belkasoft X to identify encrypted volumes, files, and so on. Again, that is Passware's Forensic Kit. So anything that they support as far as decrypting will be supported inside Belkasoft X as well. And as far as whole disk encryption, typical BitLocker, FileVault, TrueCrypt, VeriCrypt, PGP, and so on, it will say, hey, we've detected this image to be encrypted with this. Please enter the recovery key or password to decrypt the image. Supported mobile device images that we have, gray key dumps, tar image files, iTunes backups, Android backups, Huawei, Xiaomi's, Blackberries, UFED, so we can load Celebrite images into Belkasoft X. TWRP, oxygen backups, chip-offs, JTAGs, you name it, we can most likely load it into Belkasoft X. Now, I mentioned that Belkasoft had a live RAM capture that acquired Windows memory. While we can only acquire Windows memory, we do have the ability to load and analyze Windows, Linux, and ARM memory dumps inside Belkasoft X. It gives you the potential to restore a list of processes, look at those processes within hex. Sometimes we can even recover dead processes, and I'll show you, hey, this process is alive or this process is not alive. And we also have the potential to detect malware inside of a process. So if a process name looks suspicious, Belkasoft X will identify it as suspicious, and then you can choose to push that file to VirusTotal and see if there's known malware associated to that specific process. As far as supported artifacts and features, out of the box, we're currently on the upwards of close to 1,600 different types of artifacts out of the box. Can carve and recover deleted and hidden artifacts. And with that, I mean, we do support free list. So if something is marked for deletion in a free list, we can pull it out and let you know that this was deleted. As well as slack space, unallocated space, you can carve these areas and look for deleted information as well. When it comes to Belkasoft analyzing pictures and videos, we do have picture analysis for face, and you can group the faces into folders: skin detection, pornography detection, gun detection, and text detection. With text detection, it utilizes OCR in 50 different languages. And then the multiple video stream detection within single videos. So if someone is trying to hide a video behind another video, Belkasoft X can detect that there is more than one video stream, and you can actually open up that video inside the program and view both tracks, something that previously you could only do with VLC, assuming you knew there was a multiple track behind that video. So these are the different editions that are available. I've been speaking on Corporate Edition and Forensic Edition as they are the most popular, as they include the most features. So again, Corporate Edition is the only one that has Incident Investigations module and the cross-case analysis. And the Forensic Edition has the hold disk encryption and full volume encryption, decryption, and the checkmate iOS acquisition options. The Forensic Edition does include computer, mobile, and cloud, while our focused editions, if you get X Computer, only analyzes computers, and if you get X Mobile, only analyzes mobile. So that is the last slide that I have when it comes to the PowerPoint. The next one's going to be an information slide. I will come back to this when I am complete. So now I am going to jump into the product. So this is the main screen of Belkasoft X. This is kind of where you as the examiner are going to make Belkasoft do what you want it to do. The first thing, whenever you click the executable to open up Belkasoft, this is what you're presented with. I had mentioned open case while giving the presentation, but first I want to show you create case. Pretty standard. You enter the name of your case, where you want to store it, your time zone, your name, and a description of the case. All of this can be edited at any time throughout your investigation, and I will show you that once we get to the main dashboard. If I select open case, you can now see any cases that I've ever indexed with Belkasoft X. You can see date timestamps, you can see who the investigator was, the different types of data sources that I've loaded into those cases. And this is that central repository that I was telling you about. Just like it maintains how many cases and data sets that I've loaded in to this forensic workstation, it's also going to keep that centralized database for the artifacts and their hashes. So that's where that cross-case analysis is going to come from. So I'm not going to click any of those because I already have a case that's opened. But now what I want to do is jump into the settings. So this is really going to be where you're going to tailor Belkasoft X to perform how you want it to perform. In the general section of the settings tab, we will see where our application is stored. the temporary folder of where things temporarily open inside the product, such as your video viewers, your picture viewers, and so on. Below here, you'll see CPU core CUs and memory cache size for indexing. So this is really, really neat. Now you're seeing, okay, 12 cores and 31 gigs of RAM. Well, my forensic workstation, or my admin workstation that I'm currently on, has 12 processor cores and 32 gigs of RAM. Belkasoft X will automatically detect these settings in your forensic workstation and allow you to dictate how many CPU cores and how much RAM you will devote to indexing your case. The only thing that I would recommend here is that you have at least 2 gigs of RAM per course. So for this one, I would say, okay, use 24 gigs of RAM and 12 CPUs. So this will speed up the processing of your case tremendously. Now, the options under here, check automatic for updates. I always keep this checked. That way, anytime I open Belkasoft, I want to know that I'm using the latest and greatest support that Belkasoft has to offer. Jumping into appearance, you can see the language. It's currently set to English, but if you have examiners who speak or read other languages, they can be translated here, and this will turn the language in the entire program. It's not just on the report. The font size slider, you have the option to make your font smaller or to make it larger. The themes, we're currently in dark. I like to keep it in this one, it's better for the eyes, but the light version is great as well. If you want to change your date formats or time formats, you can certainly do that in here. It's all about preference, and default encoding can also be changed from here. Analysis profiles, you can think of this as kind of like a quick tap of how you want to analyze a piece of evidence. If you are, say, doing incident investigations on a Windows machine, you can name one of these instant investigations for Windows and already have a predefined selection of artifacts that you want to carve out of your data source. So it's just kind of a quick way to allow you to start processing your image without going through and individually selecting different types of artifacts. All of these are customizable and you don't have to use them. You can just do a custom one each time. Bookmarks, this is where you're going to come to change the category name. Now, you cannot change the color and you cannot change the hotkey for the bookmark categories. You can, however, make this say category 1 and have thousands of different bookmarks for that category 1. You're not just limited to 10 different types of bookmarks, you're just limited to 10 different categories of bookmarks. Moving into carving, this is where you would come if you wanted to try to carve additional information from an image that maybe was not processed within Belkasoft X. The example that I show here is a Bitcoin wallet characteristic. So I found evidence on a data source that there was a shredded Bitcoin wallet potentially left over on the machine. So I looked at the known good Bitcoin wallet, found a common characteristic, pulled the header out, and now what I can do is search the entire disk again for any sort of fragmented Bitcoin wallet characteristic. And so from here, I can potentially find more information than I would have originally. So that's just an example of how to use the carver. Jumping into pictures, these are going to be your sensitivity levels and how you want to view your pictures. Now, face detection and skin detection, you have 3 different options: less, medium, and more false positives. So again, that's all just preference. If you chose to analyze pictures for pornography, you can blur these pictures so you don't have to look at them. If you choose to blur these pictures, you can unblur the face so you can see who is in the picture without looking at the picture itself. Okay, jumping into videos, if we have, say, a bunch of videos and they're kind of long videos, we can actually cut down how many frames per second we want to pull out in the frame similarity. So instead of watching the videos, you just get little snippets of the videos and find the most interesting portion of the video for you to jump into. Next is virus total. I told you this is where you would go if you were to analyze your suspicious process names or where you want to run an entire data source through VirusTotal to see if there's any malware present on the data source. So that is it for the settings. Down here in the main bottom screen, you'll see 2 to 3 minute short tutorial videos on kind of getting started within Belkasoft X. If you have any questions, you can watch these short videos to help you out, and they are all voiced over by the Vice President of Sales for North America, James Cooksey. Okay, opening up the dashboard of Belkasoft X, I had mentioned that you can change the details of the case. You will do that right here. So clicking this little edit button, you can change any of these details. Now, going down the left-hand side of the screen, I like to break it up into 3 different sections. So the actions pane, the data source pane, and then kind of the informational pane on the dashboard. So going straight down, the first item under actions is to add a data source. This can be done from here, but it can also be done by this little blue circle in the top right-hand corner of the data sources screen. So I will select add data source, and you can see that we have 3 different options. We can add an existing data source, we can acquire a data source, or we can triage a data source, which, by the way, triage is another tool that we've pulled out and are now offering individually if you're not wanting to buy the entire Belkasoft Evidence Center X. And again, that will be covered in a different demo. So for now, I'll select Add Existing. You can see the different types of existing images that we can load in. Let's just choose Image for now. So it'll open up your browser. If I open this up, you can see all of the different types of images that are supported within Belkasoft X. So you have 7-zip files, RARs, TARs, zips, AFs, ADs, E01s, DMGs, RAWs, virtual machine files, XWays files, even floppy disk image files, which is pretty great. Now, jumping into, say, mobile devices, again, opening this up, you can see all of the different types of image files that can be loaded into Belkasoft X for analysis. If we were to select a memory dump, we get .mems, hyperfills, and page files. And then disk drives, what this is going to do is it's just like you'd be acquiring it locally, but this is going to list all drives that Belkasoft X can read that are connected to your forensic workstation. So if I click back out, click back in, typically it will have identified these drives within a rather quick amount of time. So now physical drive, logical drive, sometimes you get serial numbers up here, it tells you their size, their mount and drive letter, and so on. So you can do physical or logical copies from here. And if I go to acquire, this is where we'll see our acquisition options for mobile. Again, disk drives, it's just going to pull that where you can obviously connect it to a write blocker. You can create a physical or logical image of the drive. If I go to mobile, my 2 options, Android, you select whatever type of device you have. If the one you want is not listed, we do offer a generic Android version. So if I go to Apple, again, let's say I just select a device, go next. Any acquisition method that is available for the device you've selected will be present in this screen. Okay, and as far as cloud goes, these are the ones that I was talking to you about. So if I click email, you can see all the top runners with email. And then if I don't see the one that I need, I can do my email service is not listed, select next, into the email, password, email server, what port they're using, and whether they're storing the emails on the server or on the endpoints themselves. So putting this information in will allow you to acquire any email account. Going into Google Cloud, you can see the Drive, Gmail, Keep, Timeline Sync, My Activity, WhatsApp QR codes, WhatsApp with the phone number. And then real quick, I wanted to show you what the iCloud backup icon looks like in the latest version of Belkasoft X. The iCloud, where you enter in the Apple ID and password, and it goes Microsoft 365 that will use that email and password. So that was it for Add Data Source. Now, searching through artifacts. Here is your global search option for Belkasoft X. You can type in a word or a phrase, treat it as regular expression, add a Word file. If you don't know exactly what you're looking for, you can use a predefined search. This is updated regularly, so peer-to-peer applications. If you're looking for, stuff that you kind of know what you're looking for, but nothing specific, this is a really great place to come and search your data set. Now, if you kind of know exactly what data source you want to search for, you can actually narrow it down all the way to, hey, I don't want to search across everything. I really only want to know what's in memory, or this Android backup. So if I go down here, now I only have options that are available from these data sources. So if say no Android backup, only search through the MIM file. Well, now it's only going to show me artifacts that are present in that MIM file. Okay, so what I'm looking for is actually just pictures in the MIM file. So now I've completely narrowed down my search, and I'm not spending unnecessary time searching through the rest of my data sources. Creating a report, you can see all the different types of formats that are available with the Project Fix support here on the end, Google overlay formats, and your standard formats. You can choose to open the report when it's done processing. Selecting advanced options will allow you to choose how you want to look, whether you want to sort your items, who generated it, put your company logo, splitting your artifacts up by files, by pages. Do you want to group your artifacts based on the contact they came from or the mail folder they were found in? The files. Do you want to include those pictures that were detected? If so, do you want to blur them? Do you want to copy the embedded files or attachments into a folder right next to your report? Going into columns, this is every artifact that was found, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want available in your report. So with that being said, if I were to click on, say, passwords, I can then choose the available columns for passwords. And then over here in the selected columns item is actually going to be what is printed out into the report. The folders option, just kind of like a file system viewer. Do you want your files all in one folder, or do you want subfolders for each artifact? So that's how you would make that selection. Next is Export Evidence Reader. So that is a free reader that allows you to pick and choose what you want other people to be able to see. So if you need to pass off a data source, but only one data source out of the entire investigation, you can do that. You can just say, hey, only give somebody this E01, but also only give them the emails out of this E01 file. And this will just create a small case. It looks identical to the graphical user interface of Belkasoft X. They can load it up. They can search through the artifacts. They can tag artifacts. They can create reports from the artifacts, but they can't add or remove from the evidence. And then create a key dictionary file. So this will just basically do a strings, pull any potential passwords out of an already indexed image and create a dictionary file that can be used later to brute force a different machine. A lot of times people reuse their passwords, and that's what that would be good for. Underneath that is automatic searches, and that's going to, like it sounds, happen automatically. It's based on regular expression. So if anything matches the criteria set in that regular expression, it will be presented here. You can either use this or you don't have to. It's really just there to help you as an examiner maybe get a step in the right direction. Now, under the data sources pane, you'll kind of get a 1,000-yard view of your data sources, what type of artifacts are within them. These are hyperlinks, so you can jump directly to artifacts. If I am to close this up, and you see show nested data sources, so data sources that were found while indexing or analyzing the data sources that you loaded in. If I uncheck this box, you'll see 3 data sources that go away. These 3 data sources, the 2 Android backups and the page file, were found in another data source. Opening these backups up, you can see all of the information that we were able to recover from this nested data source. So pretty cool that it pulled it out and analyzed it separately, so you can dig into it separately and it not be jumbled in with whatever image it came from. Over here on the right hand side, we have an application type and artifacts. You can see it starts at the highest number of artifacts per application, all the way down to the lowest, which was a Wi-Fi connection. And artifacts is the same way. By the way, all of these are scrollable, so you can make them as big or as small as you would like. So for this instance, for artifacts, again, it starts at the highest number of artifacts per your entire data source, all the way down to the lowest. As you can see, that's Wi-Fi connections, malware processes, payment cards, and payment favorites. You can either look at these in grid view like we're doing now, or in chart view. It gives you a percentage of the type of artifacts, or in this case, application, take up the data sources. Same for artifacts. So it looks like pictures is our largest. I can select this and go directly into our artifacts tab. So to show you guys this real quick, this is the artifacts tab. So any of these artifacts I select on, they'll populate in the center screen. The bottom portion of this allows you to look at the different type of data that is available in their different viewers. So right now we're in picture artifacts, so I'm going to have a picture preview. I also have a hex viewer, and I can either analyze this down here in this screen, or I can use this pop-up button and go full screen on the hex viewer. Now, closing out the hex viewer and jumping back into artifacts, I can show you the structure and overview portion. So overview is actually going to be all artifacts from all of your data sources combined. You'll notice if I select cookies under browsers, I'll actually have different data sources. So this one, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, is from an Android backup. If I select something else, you can see, well, I guess that's it's another bad example. But I can scroll really to any of these, and hopefully I pick a different one this time. Okay, so this one you can see came out of the volume 32256, which inevitably came out of another backup. So I'm just picking the wrong ones here. Oh, there we go. All right, but this is going to be a conglomeration of all of your data sources and their artifacts in one. If you want to look at these artifacts separately by data source, you go into the structure tab. Now what this is going to do is break out each one individually. So your data sources that you loaded in and the artifacts that were discovered from those data sources. So if you only want to look at your E01, now you can look in your E01. Going back into overview, let's just say I click on geolocation data. So this is going to be anything that has grid coordinates. These look like some pictures, so let's go ahead and select these. I can right click and choose show checked items on map, and it will open up an embedded map within Belkasoft X. So it looks like I've got two pictures that were taken in Florida in the United States and some over here. So if I am to click on this, it'll actually show me what the picture is, where it came from, and if I select show on artifacts, it'll bring me directly back to the artifacts tab. So now there's that picture that I was just looking at. Another really neat thing that you can do within Belkasoft X is you can select the picture, right click, and choose show checked items on Google Earth. And this will open up Google Earth, plot the artifact, and then take you down to a satellite image file of where that artifact is saying that it was located. Okay, now additional viewers, MFT header information can be viewed, the hex headers. Let's say I go into email, I select a mailbox, and now I have a SQLite database. Again, I can look at the SQLite database in here, or I can open it up to its own viewer. Okay, going back into artifacts. Now what I want to do is jump into chats and kind of show you what we can do with chat messages. So let's select Facebook. We have the SQLite databases, the item text that's available. If you want to create a report with chat bubbles, you would do it from this chat screen. Just right click, create report for all items, and you can create the report with the chat bubbles. If you want to break out these conversations by individuals instead of like who this person had a conversation with individually, we can right click, show contacts, and now it'll break out the different people that this person was having communication with and how many communications they had. And you can do this with any of the chat messages. Now, up here at the top, this is a mini timeline. If I'm looking for something in 2018 to 2019, again, this is just kind of general. It wasn't specific dates, but you'll see tildes next to my artifacts. It's saying, hey, there's roughly this many artifacts in that amount of time. To clear the filter, just single click. And if you want a more fine-tuned date range, just go to the global filter button in the top right-hand corner and select date range and select a date. Moving into incident investigations module. Again, this is that additional module that's available to you in X Corporate. So that will be your methods of persistence, app DLLs, change in default file association services, apps that run at startup, shim cache, prefetch, recent documents, LNK files, downloaded files, etc. So this is a really good place to start doing an incident investigation because these are the most common types of intrusion, methods of intrusion. Getting out of incident investigations, going into the connection graph. This is one of my favorite options here. Let's go ahead and reset back to default. So just looking at this, it looks a little busy, but we can toggle this. We can hide our titles. Okay, so now what I want to do is, okay, let's find somebody. Okay, so let's go with Sebastian. Clicking Sebastian's node over here on the left-hand side, I can see everything that Belkasoft X knows about this person based on the artifacts that were discovered. Let's select Emily. Selecting Emily, I have her name and her unique identifier. What about Catherine? Okay, Catherine as well. But selecting these nodes will tell you information about the people. What's really neat is actually say, hey, only show me people who have had at least 12 conversations, and it narrows down your scope. What about Mary Poppins? Okay, well, there's Mary Poppins, there's her phone number, her email address, but what's connecting Mary Poppins and Sebastian? Selecting the link between the two nodes will bring up, let me go ahead and pull this over. Selecting the link between the two nodes will bring up any communication or really any artifact that is connecting these two individuals. You can see I have chat messages between the two and mail between the two. And you can create reports directly from this location by checking them and create report for checked items. If you want a screenshot of this graph after you've figured out who you want to be shown, you just right click and create a report, and it'll take a screenshot of what's visible on your screen. I mentioned the different types of viewers. We do have SQLite viewers, registry viewers, plist viewers, hex viewers, and the file system. If I select the file system, you can break down all of your data sources by folder. You also have the option to list these in recursive view. So if I click on the E01 file, I can either view the grid view and just go down and see all the data sources that are underneath the E01, or I can do recursive view and it's going to show me every single file that is within the E01. Jumping into the task tab, again, this is more of a front side before the analysis type thing. So when you start analyzing your cases, this is where you'll see the progress. If you need to enter in a decryption password, all of that will be done here from the task tab. Now, moving to the timeline. This is the timeline in the bar graph view. I can right click, look at the artifacts, select these artifacts, and it will take me directly to the artifacts tab. If I go back to the timeline again, I can actually change it from bar view to grid view. And this is where you can still view your messages, all of the registry, however it's being stored, you can view that information. Selecting this right here, I can see the item text, I can look at it in hex, I can see where it came from, so the origin path, any sort of data about that data can be found over here on the right. And all of these can be filtered by time. You can filter by text, selecting these filters and typing something specifically in that you're searching for. Now, that does wrap up kind of my presentation. I know we got about 10 minutes, so I can answer any questions that you may have.
Jared, I did notice a question pop up there. Is Passware attached to Belkasoft, or is it embedded within?
So it is integrated within Belkasoft, but again, that is an additional module that's going to have to be purchased separately, and it's just the cost of what Passware costs outside of Belkasoft. So you're just purchasing Passware Forensic Kit and having it on your forensic workstation. You can seamlessly decrypt files within the Belkasoft program itself, but you can also use Passware Forensic Kit without Belkasoft. So this concludes this demonstration. If I did not answer any questions that you may have, like I had mentioned before, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is under the support line at jl@belkasoft.com, and my phone number is the support line number. So I'm going to be your main point of contact for any sort of technical support. If you have sales questions about pricing and trials, please reach out to James or Addison at jc@belkasoft or ac@belkasoft.com. Thank you.